In this video, we will discuss Manage, Payroll, Setup, Register Earnings and Register Deduction menu. And we will start with Register Earnings menu. In this menu, you can register the earnings codes required by your company. And basic earnings such as salary, daily wage, hourly wage, and variable rate are already set in the program by default. And you can set up additional earnings fields according to your company's requirements. In order to generate a new earnings code, enter the desired earnings code and name, and set the display order. And the order set in display order field will be applied when the earnings fields are sorted in payroll books, and therefore make sure to enter a number that has not been entered for another earnings field. Next, in non-taxable type field, the default earnings fields will display no value. And if you enter and save a new earnings field, taxable type will be automatically applied. And for further settings, please contact your local customer service team by going to Support Online Screencast Inquiry. Next, in Payment Type field, you can choose between fixed, variable daily, variable hourly, and variable rate. Select fixed type if the same amount will be paid each month, and select daily or hourly option if you will calculate the amount by multiplying a fixed daily or hourly wage by the work hours or days entered in timesheet. Examples would be night shift allowances and holiday work allowances. And select variable rate option if the earnings will be calculated by a specific percentage of a base amount, such as sales incentives and bonuses. For variable rate option, you can individually set payment rate for each employee code in Register Employee menu, and then the program will calculate the amount that will be paid to each employee based on the individual rate settings. Next, in Formula column on the right side, you can click the field and create the formula that corresponds to each earnings field. And in order to be able to set up a formula, you need to first save the corresponding earnings field. And after saving the field, if you click on Formula field, you can click New button at the bottom to register a new formula. You can use the Calculation field listed on the right side and Calculation Tools displayed at the bottom area. And you can also set up if conditions by checking the checkbox. And I will show you an example of formula setup. For night shift allowance earnings field, in order to set up the formula, first enter the earnings code and name, display order, taxable type, and save the code. Then, in order to set it up so that any night shifts are paid half as much again as normal working hours, you can use two ways. Firstly, as mentioned, you can set up a new formula by clicking New button. To calculate night shift allowances, set the formula as multiply the night shift allowance amount entered in Register Employee Earnings Details tab by 1.5 by the timesheet data entered in New Work menu with the night shift allowance earnings code. Or alternatively, you can use a new column of the input screen and enter the extra payment rate in the column and set up the formula by using the column. Click Option at the top right side of Register Earnings menu and go to Input Screen Setting. In the pop-up window, add a new numeric field column and edit the display name to Extra Rate. Then, in the newly added column, enter the desired extra rate for night shift allowance. Then, enter the formula setup screen to register a new formula. Then, set the formula as multiply the night shift allowance amount of earnings details by extra rate numeric field by night shift allowance timesheet data. Then you can click Save to finish. And also, by checking If Condition checkbox, you can set up if conditions. For instance, you can set it up so that if an employee's employed period is longer than 5 years, $500 will be paid as special bonus. And if shorter than 5 years, $300 will be paid as bonus. So please use formula setup to your convenience. And once you have finished setting up all necessary earnings fields, click Save button at the bottom. Then you can use the earnings field for payroll calculation by entering the amount to be paid for each earnings field, individually by each employee. In Register Employee menu, you can enter the individual amount when you register each employee code. And also for an earnings field that you do not use anymore, you can select it and hover over Inactive Reactivate button at the bottom and click Deactivate to disable the field. Also, to reactivate a deactivated earnings field, click Include Inactive button and select the corresponding field and hover over the button and click Reactivate. Next, we will move on to Register Deduction menu. In this menu, just like in Register Earnings menu, you can set up the fields that will be deducted from payroll. There are two default deduction fields set up by ECOUNT. You can first enter the amount of the deduction fields for each employee in Register Employee menu. Then, the amount entered in earnings details will be pulled and applied to payroll books. And also, if you click Option button at the top right, you can find Calculation field setting and Register Tax Rate buttons. By using these buttons, you can set up formula to your desire. And later, when you set up the formula of each earnings and deduction field, you can load the formula that you set up here and use them. And you can register your local tax rate and taxes to manage tax deductions, so please note. The columns displayed in the screen, such as display order and formula, you can use them in the same way as Register Earnings menu. And if you need additional deduction fields required by your company, you can add a deduction field and click Save button to complete the registration. And then you can enter the amount of each deduction field for each employee by going to Register Employee menu. And also, if you also use the accounting module and need to process payroll data to the accounting module as well, you can set the journal entry account that will be applied to the payroll journal voucher individually by each earnings field and by each deduction field. You can go to Accounting 1, Fast Entry, General Journal, and select Payroll Slip Type, and click Payroll Journal button in the middle. Then click Journal Entry button at the bottom and set the journal entry account for each earnings and deduction field. You can either set a single account for the total earnings or deduction amount, as displayed in the screen, or you can set up an individual account code for each individual earnings and deduction field. And then, by using formula settings, for each deduction field, you can link them with the corresponding account code for individual journal entry. And generally, payroll employee and payroll officer accounts are used for earnings, and payroll tax liabilities account is used for deductions. And also, you can set a particular customer vendor code for each journal entry settings field, so that when you journalize payroll books in the accounting payroll slip menu, you can separate an amount journalized with a single account code by each customer vendor code. So to sum up, you can journalize each earnings and deduction field with different accounts respectively through payroll journal entry settings. And also, for an amount journalized by a single account, you can separate the amount by separating them into multiple summary target codes and by setting different customer vendor codes for each of them. And for further inquiries, please contact our CS team by going to Support Online Screencast Inquiry. Thank you.